small, a single drop. And then it spreads into the story we start to believe. What you focus on begins to form your mind, and then your future. In the book of Numbers, some saw giants, others saw grapes. Some saw a curse, others saw a promise. What if what you're looking for is exactly what you'll find?
Foothills, how we doing? Good. Hey, would you help me welcome online and our Pendleton campus who's joining us? So glad to have you guys with us. Man, I'm so grateful for our worship teams at every campus. That was just an incredible time of worship and connecting with God. Today we're kicking off a new series, but I want to start with a game. Is that cool? So I'm a big sports fan, and one of my favorite things when I go to a pro sports game is when they'll play this game on the Jumbotron, where maybe they'll put 3 hats up, and then they'll take like a ball or a coin, put under one of the hats, and then start the rotation, and you've got to keep tabs of the hat where the coin was, and at the end you make your guess. This game is kind of like that, but it involves a couple of teams passing a basketball around, and so it'll have instructions for you. If you've seen this before, it's an older video. Don't give away the answer for the people around you, but let's every campus, let's play this game together. Check it out.
Count how many times the players wearing white pass the basketball. How many passes did you count? The correct answer is 15 passes. But did you see the gorilla?
How many of you saw the gorilla? Okay, a few of you. Maybe you've seen that video before. That's awesome. How many of you got 15 right? Well done. That's incredible. This illustration, it's called inattention blindness, and it illustrates the idea that you really do find what it is you're looking for. Our family, we have this book that we read to our kiddos called The Best Worst Day Ever. And it's about this young guy named Bert who wakes up and he's just having one of those days, as it describes. Like everything is just going wrong in his world. And his dad takes a pause from work to help Bert learn a lesson that even in one of those days, if you start looking for it, there's actually things that you can find to be grateful for, like dancing in the rain and people around you that might be smiling that you might be missing, or an opportunity to help somebody. There's a phrase in the book. It says, if you're looking for something happy or something to be happy about, you'll always find it. And while I love reading that to the girls for them to learn that lesson, it's really a lesson for me and Katie too when we read it, because I don't know if you're like me, but I could have one of those actually good days where everything just seems to be going right, and all it takes is one or two bad things, and doesn't that just seem to dominate our thoughts? Like that just seems to be the thing that keeps me up at night, the thing that I can't stop thinking about. And really, we live in a world that's programmed us to think that way and to look for the bad. 90% of news headlines have a negative headline. And it gets 60% more clicks when there is a negative message involved, whether it's worse or disaster. We just seem to click those things. We're programmed to look for the bad, and it's become very common. but common is forgettable. The story that we're going to be looking at throughout this series involves 12 guys, 12 names, and 10 of them had the common outlook to see what was kind of obviously negative. But these 10 names, I'm curious if you've ever heard of these 10 names from the Bible. Let's throw them on the screen. I'm not even going to try to pronounce all these names. You've probably never seen these names, but the other 2 names in this story are very common names because they had an uncommon outlook on life. They had an impact on their world and on our world. Caleb and Joshua, one of our kiddos, is named after one of these characters, Caleb. And so what we're gonna do is we're gonna see that what these guys were looking for affected what they would find. The 10 saw something that caused great fear and pause and caused them to miss a great opportunity God had for them. And the 2, Caleb and Joshua, saw the blessing right in front of them. So if you've got your Bibles, we're going to be in Numbers 13 together. We got a little bit of reading. I'm going to read this whole story for us to kind of kick things off. Numbers 13 verse 1 says this: The Lord now said to Moses, send out men to explore the land of Canaan, the land I am giving to the Israelites. Send 1 leader from each of the 12 ancestral tribes. So Moses did as the Lord commanded him. He sent out 12 men, all the tribal leaders of Israel from their camp in the wilderness of Paran. Now we're going to jump ahead here to verse 17 because the next few verses just outline those names that we just looked at. It says, Moses gave the men these instructions as he sent them out to explore the land. This is the land that God had promised to their ancestors. This is a land that they had been waiting on while they were still in slavery and oppression in Egypt. Moses has led them out, and here they are right on the brink of approaching it. As they explore, it says, go north through the Negev into the hill country. See what the land is like. Find out whether the people living there are strong or weak, few or many. See what kind of a land they live in. Is it good or bad? Do their towns have walls, or are they unprotected like open camps? Is the soil fertile or poor? Are there many trees? Do your best to bring back samples of the crops you see. It happened to be the season for harvesting the first ripe grapes. So they went up and explored the land from the wilderness of Zin as far as Rehob near Lebo Hamath. Going north, they passed through the Negev and arrived at Hebron, where Ahiman, Shesai, and Talmai, all descendants of Anak, lived. The ancient town of Hebron was founded 7 years before the Egyptian city of Zoan. When they came to the valley of Eshcol, they cut down a branch with a single cluster of grapes so large that it took 2 of them to carry it on a pole between them. Capture that for a moment. They found these grapes that are in this land, and the fruit, it's so big and so strong, it took 2 of them to carry this cluster of grapes on a pole between them. That's a lot of grapes. Those are big grapes. It says they also brought back samples of the pomegranates and figs. That place was called the Valley of Eshcol, which means cluster. Because of the cluster of grapes the Israelite men cut there. After exploring the land 40 days, the men returned to Moses, Aaron, and the whole community of Israel at Kadesh in the wilderness of Paran. They reported to the whole community what they had seen and showed them the fruit they had taken from the land. This was their report to Moses. We entered the land you sent us to explore, and it is indeed a bountiful country, a land flowing with milk and honey. Here's the kind of fruit it produces. Remember, they've got the grapes. It's on the pole. It's like, here it is. Here's the grapes that are in that land. But the people living there are powerful, and their towns are large and fortified. The narrative starts to shift. We even saw giants there. The descendants of Anak. The Amalekites live in the Negev. The Hittites, Jebusites, and Amorites live in the hill country. The Canaanites live along the coast of the Mediterranean Sea and along the Jordan Valley. But Caleb tried to quiet the people as they stood before Moses. Caleb is trying to bring faith. He's trying to bring a perspective to them of the blessings that are right ahead. He says, let's go at once and take the land. He said, we can certainly conquer it. But the other men who had explored the land with him disagreed. We can't go up against them. They're stronger than we are. So they spread this bad report about the land among the Israelites. The land we traveled through and explored will devour anyone who goes to live there. All the people we saw were huge. We even saw giants there, the descendants of Anak. Next to them, we felt like grasshoppers. And that's what they thought too. And as we will follow this story throughout the series, what you're about to find is because of the report of these 10 spies and the fear that went throughout the Israelite nation, there was an entire generation that missed out on this promised land. Because of this moment where they went in and God had blessings in that land for them, because they saw the giants and were overwhelmed with fear about going forward, they would spend the next 40 years wandering in the wilderness until that generation would pass away. And the next generation would be the one that gets to enter the promised land. Those 10 spies affected the whole nation and they missed out. However, what else we'll find is that the 2 spies, Caleb and Joshua, who chose to see past the giants, they weren't overwhelmed by the giants because they knew the size of their God and they saw the blessings God had for them. They chose to look for the grapes. That chose to be the story and the narrative that they leaned into. God would preserve Caleb and Joshua through that generation, and they would one day enter the promised land. What if in your life and in my life, what we're looking for not only affects what we find, but what if it affects where you and I get to step and walk and go tomorrow? Like, what if our perspective on life is shaping not only our faith, but our future relationships, careers, and our journey? I believe that God preserves this lesson to teach you and I how we can be a group of people that's like Caleb and Joshua, that we look for the grapes. And one of the things that I'm praying for Foothills as we go through this series is that God would teach us to be a group of people that looks for the grapes. Believe me, there's giants in our world. There's plenty of things to be afraid about if that's our focus. But there's also so many blessings and so many promises that God has for you and me to bolster our faith. And so I'm praying that as we walk through this series, we would become a people that looks for the grapes. We're gonna be camping out here through the entire month of August. But today I wanna kind of do an overview of this story. And I want to look at 3 things that Caleb and Joshua did that helped them have a posture to have the right perspective to look for the grapes, because I think this will affect you and me. But I want to do something a little creative. We're actually going to read these points backwards today. We're going to start at point 3, and I'll explain why at the end. The very first thing I want to point out, number 3, is when you look for the grapes, you need to look for what could go right. Look for what could go right. This is a future-oriented perspective. As I'm looking into the future, I need to look for what could go right in the story. Imagination is a powerful gift that God has given us. But any gift God has given us is also something the enemy tries to twist, to steal. And so imagination from God is fuel for our faith. He gives us imagination to imagine a future filled with hope. Imagine what God is possible of or capable of. And imagination can be fuel for that faith, but it can also be the very thing that fuels our fear. Where the enemy twists and we start to ask the question in the other way, what could go wrong in this story? And it can kind of paralyze us and hold us back. I want you to think about a positive faith-based imagination. Think about the question, what if? Some of the things that you might ask if you're thinking what could go right, like you might ask, what if God does open the door? What if this conversation goes well? Like, what if it restores our relationship? What if I get the call back? Or what if I do get accepted? What if she says yes? What if that small step sparks something bigger that I can't even see yet, that God has for me down the road? But if we flip towards the side of fear, the what if narrative goes like this. What if I fail? What if the conversation goes poorly? What if I bomb the interview? What if he says no? What if my kid grows up to be? What if I get hurt again? What if I'm alone like this forever? What if this is as good as it gets? What if there are giants? I wonder which version of what if is the one that plays in your head more often. I wonder if it's one of faith that imagines what could go right, or if there's a soundtrack that's playing over and over in your head that's based in fear, wondering what if things go wrong. You see, They had imagined that things might go wrong, and because of just a little bit of fear, they decided, you know what, God has promised us a land, but we just need to make sure, because what if? Like, what if the land is not how he said? And if we only read the version that we just read in Numbers, we might think that this whole idea was God's. But as you keep reading in the Old Testament, Deuteronomy is kind of a recap of all of this. It's a message that Moses wrote to the Israelites before he would pass away and they would go into the land. And he makes sure that it's clear in the details that this idea was not God's. This began with the people. I want to look at Deuteronomy 1:22. These are Moses' words. He says, but you all came to me and said, first, let's send out scouts before the land, to explore the land for us. They will advise us on the best route to take and which towns we should enter. God didn't initiate this idea. God already had the land ready for them. He didn't initiate that they needed to go scout it out. They just needed to trust him. And in fact, in the book of Ezekiel, we actually find that God already did the scouting for them. Check this out, Ezekiel 20, verse 6. Says, on that day, I swore to them that I would bring them out of Egypt into a land I had searched. I had searched out for them, a land flowing with milk and honey, the most beautiful of all lands. They didn't need to survey the land. They just needed to step out. See, I think that sometimes us walking in doubt or a narrative of fear, it disguises itself as diligence. I want to say that again. I think there's times that the what if narrative that's based in doubt and then begins the train of fear, it disguises itself as diligence. Like we just have to make sure that everything is going to be in place. And I want you to hear me wrong. It's good to have plans, but when we're walking in faith, God is always going to test our faith by asking us to take steps that don't always make sense to us. And Proverbs 3, 5, and 6 says, trust in the Lord with all your heart and lean not on your own understanding. There's going to be things God asks us to do that we don't quite understand or get yet. But caution can mask itself, and we can walk in fear thinking that we're being diligent. It's why you might be dating her for 7 years and it's like, dude, it's probably time to marry her, but you're like, well, I just gotta have X, Y, Z in place. Or we're just not quite ready to have kids yet. Let me give you a piece of advice. By the time we've had our third kid, we're still not ready to have kids yet. I am just telling you. Maybe it's to step out and make a job change, like you're waiting for everything to be set perfect. Maybe it's to start tithing and giving God your first and best, but you're looking at your budget going, it doesn't make sense yet. It's not always gonna make sense to step out in faith. And if you're playing the what if game in a version of fear, the enemy is gonna keep you back from experiencing what God has for you on the other side of trusting him. There's a verse in Ecclesiastes that I absolutely love. This verse is packed with wisdom for you and I about not waiting for things to be set up perfectly. It says Ecclesiastes 11:4, farmers who wait for perfect weather never plant. If they watch every cloud, they never harvest. Listen, faith isn't reckless. It's okay to do a little bit of planning and research, but faith also moves, and it's not driven by research and plans, it's driven by God's word. It's driven by what he says is best. That's what stepping and walking in faith does. See, Joshua and Caleb, they had an imagination of what could go right. They saw those grapes and they weren't concerned about the giants because they knew that God was bigger than the giants. But what happened for the other 10 is they started to imagine all the things that could go wrong. Remember how much time they spent talking about the people that are there, the size of the giants? Like if we go up against them, guys, we are absolutely doomed. Right there at the start of them going into that journey, they started with that imagination that was fueled by fear. If we allow our imagination to fuel fear, and if our what if is in a negative, we're gonna have a real hard time seeing the grapes that God has for us on the other side of walking in his direction. The second thing, not just future oriented, now let's go to present. The second thing Joshua and Caleb did, and that you and I need to do if we want to find the grapes. Look for what is going right. Not just what could be going right, but like right now, right in front of you, right in this moment, look for what is going right. If you're looking for something to be happy about, you'll always find it. But guess what? If you're looking for something to complain about, you will always find it. Always. God, I'm thankful it's a sunny day. Why is it so hot? The food was great. The service was subpar. Oh, the vacation was awesome. The drive was horrible. He loaded the dishwasher. Why does he do it wrong every time? All right. I love you. That was for you guys. You're not alone. It's all right. It's all right. But think about it. All the things, like maybe you got a raise and you're like, man, I'm grateful for the raise. I just don't like all the new responsibilities. I don't like being asked for more things. Like if you're looking for something to be happy about, you'll find it. If you're looking for something to complain about, you will always find it. Listen, God's people were really good at complaining. Like if you follow this group, and they had a lot to be grateful for. We're less than 2 years removed from them having been in oppression and slavery, not seeing their way out, crying out to God, going, where are you? And they'd been in slavery for 400 years at that point. 400 years. Sometimes we hear numbers, and I don't think it sets in. I want you to think about this. 400 years. This country, America, is not even 250 years old. 400 years. That's generation after generation after generation. God, where are you? God has delivered them. And then if you watch 3 days after they get delivered through the Red Sea, they start complaining. Where's the food? God, what are you gonna do? And God literally, he provides miracle after miracle after miracle, but they consistently complain. I was thinking about this. Many of the challenges that you're facing and that I'm facing in life today are actually the answers to the prayers that we prayed yesterday. Say that again. Many of the challenges, many of the hurdles or obstacles or burdens that are in your life today, I wonder how many of them are the answers to yesterday's prayers. I was thinking about that recently, and there was a day that my buddy Rod, who's our student pastor here, he'd come into the office to have a conversation. I always love when Rod drops in. If you know Rod Smith, man, he's a guy that looks for the grapes. I mean, he beams with joy, and he's always got great stories. And so he comes in, he's like, oh man, how's it going? And he's like, all right, Kevin, I gotta tell you what was going on yesterday. He goes, so I'm sitting there, and Rod, just a little snapshot of his story. Rod was crying out to God through most of his young adult life that God would provide a wife for him one day. And that journey ended up taking a lot longer than I'm sure he would have hoped, or that many of us would be like in his shoes going, God, are you not hearing this guy's prayer? And so Rod didn't get married until his early 40s. God provided him an incredible wife, Melanie. And yeah, Melanie and Rod, they're awesome. And at that age, you might think, man, like that's awesome. They got married and that's it. But they were praying that maybe God would even be able to provide them kids. And God didn't just provide them one kid. He provided them 2 kids, Charlotte and RJ, in their home. And so he's talking to me about kids, and kids, especially young kids, like it can be a lot in your home. And so he's talking, he's like, dude, I'm sitting here. I got a big old pile of laundry in front of me, like all these clothes everywhere. And he's like, dude, I am crying. And I'm like, I get it. I get that feeling. And just in that moment, like, it was a holy moment. Tears are in Rod's eyes. He's looking, I can see him just like he's imagining that pile of laundry. He goes, Kevin, I look at that pile of laundry, and he goes, I prayed for this. I prayed for this pile of laundry. That pile in front of him, it was not a task, it was a testimony. I wonder how many things are in my life and in your life right now that we've confused as a task or a burden. that are actually a blessing and a testimony. They're the very thing that we prayed for. Listen, blessings will complicate your life. They'll complicate your life. And what the enemy will do is he wants to come in and go, yeah, you didn't really want that. He wants to take that complication and he wants to twist it so that you start getting twisted in your head. Is God really good? Does he care? Does he see me? And God's like, what do you mean do I see you? Like, this is the very thing that you prayed for. Don't let the enemy twist it. Do not let the enemy twist it. There are blessings in our life that do complicate our life, but that does not mean that they are a burden. That does not mean that they are a burden. I was thinking about, I've just been thinking about it in the context of our church. Last week, I got to spend a Sunday with our Pendleton campus. Guys, our Pendleton campus is popping. I'm telling you, God is working over there. And man, I just want to I want to applaud you guys. It does not feel like you're in a high school. The presence of God is in that place and his community. You guys are bringing so much joy and excitement. My family just felt so loved being able to hang out and worship over there with you guys. But I know that when you're going through the motions, especially for those guys, they're having to set up and tear down every single week. And it's not like a little bit of set up and tear down. You saw and felt this heat wave we were in, right? Like we're with their team. It's like noon last Sunday. They're packing up trailers and I mean, they are dripping in sweat. It could be easy when it's in front of you every week for the enemy to start twisting that complication of that blessing. I'm speaking to you, Pendleton campus, to twist that and you start to look for what's wrong and kind of get stuck in the burden and miss, you're in the middle of a blessing right now. You are in the middle of a blessing right now. God is working in your midst. And Seneca campus, you're not off the hook. We moved our services back to 9. Some of you volunteer. You had to get here a little bit earlier. I'm sorry. You know why you had to do that? Because God's moving in our midst. He's bringing more people. And it can be easy to think, man, that 15 minutes earlier, I can't, it's easy. Listen, it's easy for the enemy to flip that. And there was a day you prayed for a community like this. You prayed to have a purpose in the kingdom of God. You prayed that God would move and that he would bring prodigals like the prodigal you're praying for, that he would bring them to our church. And you get to be a part of that. And I think we forget because it's easy to get comfortable over time. Like we're not having to load up a trailer after service. 15 minutes earlier is not that big of a deal, like in the grand scheme of things. But the enemy, man, he'll twist it. He'll twist it. I wonder where he's doing that in your personal life right now. I wonder where he's doing it in your marriage right now. I wonder where he's doing it with your school right now, with your friend group right now, with your job right now. The thing you prayed for that was a blessing, where the enemy has been twisting it. It's one of the reasons we need this community, because we need people around us that encourage us. That's why we do small groups here. Our small groups will launch right after Labor Day. I want to encourage you to look out for that. But there's also a special group that's called Moms in Prayer. They've got a booth at every campus today. And if you are a mom that is walking through just the journey and the blessing and the privilege, but the great responsibility of being a mom, you need other people in your corner in life. And this group spends time praying together on a weekly basis. They meet on Wednesday mornings. You can find out more about that out at the concourses at the campuses. But to have a posture to get the perspective of seeing the grapes, you got to look for what's going right, not look for what is going wrong. Joshua and Caleb were looking for what's going right. Let's go back to Numbers. It says, when they came to the valley of Eshcol, they cut down a branch with a single cluster of grapes, so large that it took how many? How many? 2 of them. To carry it on a pole between. I want some of them grapes. That's how I feel. I want some of them grapes. God has blessings that are absolutely abundant. But sometimes those blessings come with responsibilities. Sometimes it's going to take 2 of you to carry that blessing along the way. So let me ask you, are you seeing the blessing right now? Or are you blinded by the burden? Are you seeing with wonder what God has given you, or are you overwhelmed with just the weight of that responsibility? Are you seeing a problem? Are you seeing that was the very provision that God has given you. So future oriented was point 3, look for what has gone right. Then present oriented was point 2, look for what is going right. Now we need to go back. Point number 1, look for what has already gone right. Look for what has already gone right. As I look back, God has already moved. He's already worked. There's things that I can draw from. There's this cool detail in this story that might be easy to miss. Numbers 13:22 says, going north, they passed through the Negev and arrived at Hebron. Now, this is a location, so if you read this quick and we're just kind of, skim reading the story, you might confuse this detail as simply geography, but this is way more than geography. See, Hebron was actually the burial ground of their faith ancestors and faith heroes. This is where Abraham and Sarah and Isaac and Rebecca and Jacob, this is where they were buried. This was the burial ground where they were buried in that promised land, where they knew one day they would be bringing Joseph's bones, who was actually the great grandson of Abraham, who helped rescue them into Egypt. When he died, he said, don't bury me here, take me with you, because there's a promised land and I want to be buried with my dad and my granddad and my great grandfather. There was history to pull from that was saying, hey, this is the same God who's got us to this point, is the same God who made that promise generations and generations ago. He's the same God who heard our cries when we were in Egypt, and he sent Moses and began sending all these plagues and captured us from our enemy in Egypt. Then when it seemed like he led us to a dead end where the story was over, we saw God part the Red Sea. We walked through on dry ground, ourselves, our elderly, our children. We walked through safe, and once we were safe, he wiped out the entire enemy behind us. Not one of us was harmed in the process, and now he has preserved us through the wilderness. Like he provided bread from heaven, he provided water from a rock, he is going before us by a cloud by day and fire by night. Like, God, when I look back, he's been here the whole time. Why am I scared of some giants? Why? He's been here the whole time working. They had receipts to pull from that could remind them of God's faithfulness. Where are your receipts? What you think for a moment? You got them. Like, where are they? I know that there's some things that maybe are tough right now. I know there's some things that maybe didn't go how you hoped, but as you look back, where has God been the whole time? As you look back, maybe the fact that you're sitting here today or standing in this room today is because something went right then. Because he did something for you then. Like, as you look back, God has been working. And if you're looking in your own life, go, man, I'm struggling to find, go further. Like, these guys could have gone further. Hebron was such a marking location for Joshua and Caleb that later, and we'll see this at the end of the series, when Joshua and Caleb did get to settle in the promised land, Caleb goes, I want that spot. I want my family to be in Hebron. That's where we're going to settle, is there. He drew from faith that was beyond his life. Like, he pulled from generations before. You know where you and I get to pull from? We don't have to go to Hebron, where there's a burial ground of ancestors who are in a grave. We get to go to a tomb where there's no body. That's where we get to go. We get the reminder that what's already gone right is even the blessings of life here on earth are only temporary, because our true promise is in eternity, and it was secured when Jesus died on Calvary and then 3 days later walked out of that tomb. And he said, if anyone calls on him and believes in him, there's no giant, no enemy that can stand against you or take you from the love of God. Come on, church, praise Jesus with me. He is good. He is good. So we did the points in reverse order. Here's what I've been doing this summer, and here's the thing, like, as we kick off this series, it's just a simple thing I want to encourage you to do. I want to encourage you to do it every day. You can do it just on a note on your phone. I use a physical journal, but let's put them in the new correct order. We flip those. I've just been taking 5 minutes, literally 5 minutes. Doesn't take long. And I go in this order. And the reason that I go in this order is I believe Joshua and Caleb built their faith in that order. Because of what God did yesterday, they could see what he was doing today, and it gave them faith for what he could do tomorrow. The enemy wants you to be afraid of tomorrow so that you start seeing what's already going wrong now, and then you play back the stories of what went wrong yesterday. Let God flip that script. See his faithfulness yesterday, see his faithfulness today, and then imagine a future filled with faith that he's got you tomorrow. It doesn't take long. It's a beautiful exercise, and even this morning, you could keep them up. That's all right. I want us to sit and kind of think on those. Even this morning, I'm looking for what has already gone right, and I'm worshiping in this room, and I just told Katie this. The first Sunday in August, 5 years ago, Katie and I were living in Tennessee, and we made a visit, and we were just gonna lead worship that day, bless Foothills, and head back to Tennessee. And God had a different plan in mind. He had a different plan in mind. I'm sitting there worshiping going, God, you said things in here. You've moved in here in my life, and I've seen you do it countless times for other lives in this place. You've been faithful. And so now I'm looking like right now, God, what's already going right? So this week I'm doing this exercise, I'm journaling, and I've got this spot on our front patio where that's been kind of my recent spot to just spend time journaling, praying, and reading the word. And so I'll sit down and do this. And recently my girls have been waking up early, our daughters, and they like to come out and sit with me. And this is one of those sacred times where it's gonna be kind of quiet, without kids for just a minute. And I found myself being like, it kind of feels like an interruption. And I'm journaling this, look for what's going right. And God's like, And so I pull out my phone and snapped a picture of Anna sitting next to me. How easy it is to miss these moments. How easy it is. How bad the enemy hates you and hates me to try and twist something beautiful and steal the blessing. No, look for the grapes. We go back to the list. So you look for what's gone right, you look for what's going right. Well then, as I imagine the future and I imagine those things I'm praying for that seem so big, the giants that seem too big for me, I can go, wait a minute. No, God's been faithful. He is faithful, and there are grapes. There are blessings. And so this whole series, man, we're gonna learn together. We're gonna ask God, would you teach us how to be a people that looks for the grapes? And before we leave today, we're gonna worship together and we're gonna respond to God. We're gonna walk through this exercise. We're gonna sing a song about his goodness, that all of our lives he's been faithful. All of our lives, he's been so good to us. We're gonna start the exercise before we leave here. And during this time at all the campuses, while we worship, you can come forward and kneel. We've got rugs at the front. We're gonna have prayer teams that are on the sides of the room that will be there as a resource. If you wanna pray with somebody today, if you want encouragement in your life for what you're walking through, help from God to see the grapes. We've also got tables at the campuses where you could leave prayer cards and our team could be praying for you. Or you can stand or even sit right where you're at. And if you wanna pull out a journal or your phone and just start writing down the things that went right, what's already gone right, what's going right, and then what could go right as a result. We're just not gonna rush out of here. Just for a few minutes, we're gonna worship and we're gonna look for the grapes together. So at every campus, would you stand with me? And I'm gonna pray. and then we're going to look for the grapes. God, you are faithful. Wow, you are faithful. Thank you, Jesus. Thank you, Jesus, for your love for us. Thank you that you are the same yesterday, today, and forever. And we thank you that right now you are fighting enemy lies in this house and in Pendleton and those watching online. That where the enemy has drawn a narrative of fear, right now you're literally exposing the fact that our enemy is not stronger than you. There's no enemy we're facing that's bigger than you. And there are blessings, there are promises, there are grapes right in the middle of this story right now. So God, I pray that you would form us into a people that walk in faith, a people that look for the grapes. And right now, if you're here and you've never begun a relationship with Jesus, maybe this morning, just throughout the message, you've sensed him inviting you to take the step of faith today. Maybe you've walked in imagination of what could go wrong if you gave him your life. Like maybe you've come across this point before, but you've walked in fear. And maybe today it's to look for the grapes in the promise. Maybe today is the day that you say, you know what? I want to walk in faith. I want a faith like Joshua and Caleb. You could receive Jesus today by praying a prayer like this. Jesus, I need you. I need you. I recognize that I've been walking in sin, that I've stayed out of trusting you for salvation and tried to do life my own way. And today I'm clear on the fact that it isn't working. I also know I can't save myself. So I need you. Jesus, thank you for coming here and dying for me. And thank you that the grave is empty so that I can have faith in a God who is alive. Today, would you save me? And I'm going to commit to follow you as my Lord and my leader from this moment forward. It is in your mighty name, Jesus, that we pray. Amen.
Hey guys, this is Pastor Kevin here, the lead pastor at Foothills. I'm so glad that you joined us watching online today, wherever you watch from. I hope that you felt the encouragement and the hope of Jesus today. And I want you to know that we'd love the opportunity to connect with you. You could reach out to us by going online to our website, foothills.cc, or we would love the opportunity to meet you if you're ever in town and able to come to one of our campuses. Guys, I hope that you have a fantastic week. If you know of somebody who could be encouraged by this message today, be sure and share this with them. We'll see you soon.